You know what really pisses me off? Not the subject of this video, it's just something I want to talk about. Whenever you see a piece of fiction that is set in the future, most of the time it's either dystopian or utopian. Of course, being that we live in an age of very nuanced fiction, it rarely is just all into one direction perfectly. There is a certain spectrum, like not everything is perfect and not everything is terrible, but generally it does tend to veer toward the ends of that spectrum. Even when people just talk about the future, they tend to go for the extremes. Either all of the problems will be fixed and everything will be perfect, or all of the problems that have already been fixed will be unfixed, and there will be new problems, and we will be living in a nightmare world. And this happens to me as well all of the time. I mean, it's very easy to see the way things develop through a very monochromatic lens. When it comes to dystopias in our cynical, pessimistic times, there's a lot of them to pick from, depending on just what you believe will happen. You've climate change turning the world into a hothouse wasteland. You've World War III killing most of the world's population and then cursing the planet with nuclear winter. You've corporations finally completely swallowing all the governments and making people just into neo-feudalist consumer peasants. A new wave of fascists takes over all of the governments and instates a totalitarian global rule. China conquers the world and everyone lives forever under complete communist surveillance. The chemicals turn all of the frogs gay. There's a lot of bad scenarios out there, a lot more than positive takes such as Star Trek. That's of course not to say that there isn't any optimism out there. Most of it is tied to scientific advances, usually just resolving all of humanity's problems with a single technology. It's a land without time or worry, where everyone always has everything they need because either resources are just so absurdly abundant that nobody ever needs anything anymore that they can't get, or we've entirely curbed our consumption and focused on the spiritual values because living off sunlight is the only thing that we need. Poverty is completely eliminated, resources are distributed in a fair manner so nobody goes hungry and people can still reach their full potential and be properly rewarded for it. Government efforts are led by science and compassion and a desire for everyone's happiness. Great artists, thinkers and scientists are common and widely admired by society, and solely dedicated to the advancement of the human species. And this sort of black and white thinking about the future is not a new development. If you read books or watch films or television shows or whatever from way back when, you will notice that at this point in time where we live right now, either all of our problems have been fixed, or we live in a literal hellscape. If the piece of media focused on a single technology or a small group of technologies, they either made everything terrible or made everything perfect. And both of these approaches are simultaneously correct and incorrect. Yes, everyone has cameras and microphones in their house, and there are problems with this. But we don't live in anything even remotely related to the nightmare vision of Ingsoc. Yes, everyone has constant access to all of the knowledge of humanity, and a lot of people make use of this by bettering themselves. But most people just use it for fun and entertainment. They don't spend all of their time acquiring new skills and learning new information to become some sort of polymath renaissance person. Yes, tons of people spend huge amounts of time immersing themselves in virtual worlds, neglecting their flesh and blood contacts. This same technology also provides a lifeline for a lot of lonely people that would have just remained lonely otherwise. It has brought people who are flesh and blood friends closer together even. I interact more with my friends now than I would have been able to even in the past. Yes, we have more resources and production ability than ever, and poverty is at an all-time low. But it's not been eliminated, and wealth inequality is larger than ever before, and that gap is getting wider. Times have changed, but they've become neither utopian nor dystopian. They have remained Nontopian. Many problems have been eliminated from the world in our daily experience. Others have come because of the elimination of the previous problems. If you do look at the numbers, you will find that things have become better overall, but they've not become perfect, and they never will become perfect. We as individuals may not have to deal with a lot of problems today that we used to have to deal with, but new problems have emerged. You and I do not have to worry about dying from dysentery. A settler on the Oregon Trail did not have to worry about cybersecurity. You and I do not have to worry about creating stockpiles of food for the winter. A medieval peasant did not have to worry about dying in a car crash. In much of the same way, you and I do not have to worry about finding meaning in a civilization without biological death. Whereas people in a post-scarcity future do not have to worry about acquiring enough resources to stay alive. You and I do not have to worry about... A third millennium cyberhuman does not have to worry about losing their perfect physique despite eating nothing but chocolate eclairs all day. And all of these future problems seem scary and insurmountable to us today, but the same would have been true of people in the past confronted with the problems that we just deal with. Imagine handing someone from the 1920s a cell phone going, yeah, you absolutely need good social media in order to be alive as a functioning member of society today, but also you have to really make sure you have good passwords and individual passwords, and you have to keep your passwords safe, and always make sure that you don't reveal data that you don't want revealed on social media, and really just anyway, you really need to make sure that no data you don't want out there is out there. They would be terrified! But we deal with this. We get password managers, we maintain information hygiene on the internet. It's just something that we do. Not all of us, obviously, but also in the past some people didn't make stockpiles for food and bore the consequences of that. People even die of dysentery today even if they do not have to, mostly because they did something stupid. Only very rarely will we be able to completely eliminate any given problem, even if we can eliminate 99% of it. I think that seeing the future through an either everything will be good or everything will be bad kind of lens is just an artifact of Omega Point thinking. This is the idea that human life, civilization, the universe is headed for an ultimate point. It's a side effect of being able to judge the consequences for things applied to systems that are so complex that the consequences can be maybe outlined vaguely, possibly. And I'm not even saying that this is categorically a bad thing, by the way. Yes, it is true that Orwell's nightmare vision of the world did not come true. But how much of that do you think is because he published that warning in his novel and we became aware of the dangers of the technology that we have? Fiction and thought experiments allow you to explore and better understand the ramifications of a thing before that thing is even a thing. And if you understand something, well, then you can work with it. But it's also easy to get lost in seeing the things that you want to be seeing in your vision of the future, and thus you demonize or idolize a given technology or social development or whatever to a degree that it is no longer logical. It's very easy to fall victim to nirvana fallacies and slippery slope fallacies in this realm. At the end of the day, nobody knows what the future holds. We can make educated guesses, we can make uneducated guesses, but chances are that we'll be fine and will not be perfect. Thank you very much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel, share this in your relevant communities. Do not spam them. I appreciate all of you. Consider supporting me on Patreon. Not sure when the subscribe star is going to come up. The site is still having issues. I do want to offer that alternative platform, but it's not happening. Instead, you could buy some merch. We have these two designs at the moment. I might be working on getting future ones also. And in that spirit, consider the future, but don't get lost in fear or incredible jack-off orgasmic optimism, because neither will happen and both will happen. And see you around, cunts.